hopefully. This is us, live once again. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, not quite all here, so I've gone for the look that kind of really expresses that discorporate feeling. But we're here, we're live, we've got some great guests. And let's kick straight off in our usual way. Hello, Bill, what have you been up to this week?
Hey, and I'm planning on going to a conference in a couple of weeks, and I'm not going to be speaking at it. I'm just going to be a spectator. It should be a lot of fun. It's the Smart Data Conference in Smart Data Week in San Jose. I'm looking for some interesting new semantic web takeaways. You know, information about new schema and so on, and they've had some interesting announcements at this conference the past couple of years, including 2 years ago. Was it 2011 schema markup, right?
Yeah. You know what? Semantic web takeaways are nice. Pizza takeaways are better. It's that simple. But yeah, I'm going to blame John more because he's obviously got you used to being in the audience. But I'm sure you'll be able to jump up on the stage there as well. Go on, try.
No, he's talking about getting me a stool to sit in to show up at your next meetup.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I know he's been delighted to have you there, and it's always fun for us as well.
Oh, it's nice. It's about a 4-minute drive away. Where they're having a meetup too, which is nice.
So now I'm really envious. I wish I was just 4 minutes away from just dropping in and saying hi to everyone.
It's about 2 blocks from the beach, so maybe I'll stop by there next time too.
Lovely, Terry. Back as ever with the headphones today because your speakers are playing up. But how are you? And how's your week been going?
I've been playing with the settings here on my system ever since Hangout a few weeks back. Can't seem to get things to sync up again. So, keep playing with it. I don't know. Keep working on the same stuff, working on some video, add more schema. It's how you rank, I guess. Links don't do nothing from what I see. Like, might as well pee into the wind. Probably get more results that way.
Still finding links very good, but more than ever you've got to watch which links. And more than ever, I know it's deprecated and all the rest of it, but good guest blogging is still working for me. It really is.
Yeah, we'll see if the ranks move this week or not. I'm going to be checking, but I'm not real confident. And what I've seen other people doing, it's, just keep making content, but you can't build links or, you're going to be in crap. So I just keep pounding away at it and see what happens. Add more content, add videos.
I still find there's building and there's building. If you do an event that gets some links, if you think laterally to getting some of those links, it can still work very well. But it's lateral thinking.
Agreed. That's why we're kind of starting to do the in-house seminars, because then we can publicize events and stuff. Gives us something that may work. I don't know. Maybe it takes longer too. For links to actually show up in the rankings, right? That could be it too, that they want to, that you got to age them more, like good wine, eh?
It could be. It's going to depend on the authority. David Hammerland, joining us at short notice this week, but always an absolute delight. What have you been up to this week?
It's been a pleasure to be here, actually. It's been ages since I met up with you guys, and it's been pretty hectic for a while for me. My traveling has come down to a stop. It stopped last week, and I'm sort of using the next 6 to 7 weeks to do a bit of writing. So that's what I'm up to.
The next book is on its way. You heard it here first, folks.
It is. I'm doing the edits. It's a nightmare. It's like breaking rocks.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It is. You get to finish a chapter, and you get to finish the book, and then it comes back, and it's got like the notes and the comments from the editors are more than the book itself. So I've got to go back. I've got to go back and sort of change this and change that and add this and justify that.
Do you find it hard to switch from being so involved in social media? Do you find it's hard to focus on writing, because sometimes you really do need to sort of I'm gonna write, or do you find it inspires it?
Well, no. I mean, social media doesn't distract me, if that's what you mean. So no, it doesn't really affect my writing. But what I do find is that it is incredibly difficult sometimes to have a structured sort of process in your head. And you finish that, then it comes back for editing. And what the editors see doesn't always necessarily mesh with what you've seen. So then you have to talk it out, which is why it becomes a lengthy process. Some things I agree with, and some things I don't agree with, and some things we sort of compromise on. And it's a very sort of, fluid sort of kind of situation, which brings out the finished product, and that can be really difficult sometimes.
So this stage in creating a book turns into a conversation with an editor.
It does. I mean, what the editor is supposed to do, essentially, is act as the eyes and ears of the audience for you. So, you may have written something and you make assumptions thinking that the audience knows that and it's clear from your perspective, but from the perspective of the average reader, it isn't. And sometimes something which, you've explained in 2 paragraphs may need 10. And that's where the difficulties come in, because the moment you change one part of the book, then you have to make sure that it meshes now fluidly with the other parts which haven't been changed. So writing the book in the first place is probably the easiest process, because there's not a lot of other eyes or ears looking at it. It's just you. But then when we get to the editing process, a lot of other brains get into the picture, and then you have to justify some things, and some things you just need to take out. So that's what I'm doing, and it's quite a difficult process.
Is it still fun? That's the major part.
Oh, yeah.
Is it looking forward to when it's out that's the fun, and this bit is the hard work?
Well, I find the process itself fascinating, though sometimes it can be really frustrating. But I find it fascinating because it's a picture sometimes into my own thinking, which is not easy to see. And also, I see what other people who are not familiar, editors in technical books like this one are not familiar with the subject very much, but they are familiar with the scene and how the audience thinks. So it's always interesting to see how their brains work, and it's a learning curve. I find it fulfilling up to a certain point, but you get tired and you get frustrated, and you think, sometimes I was up until 5 in the morning last, not the day before yesterday, and I was thinking, God, I thought, why am I doing this?
It's got to be. David Kay, we've got you joining us at last again. No kiddies this time, and we only invite you so that you'll bring them along. How's things going? What have you been up to this week?
Lordy, I'm hiding in the kitchen because it's so freaking hot here. I don't know if it's as bad where you guys are, but it's dying out here.
It's fine if you got air conditioning.
Yeah, that's where I'm hiding down here in the air conditioning. I think it's 95 and 100% humidity out there. You melt. But yeah, keeping busy, trying to rouse some people up on Google Plus and balancing that with actually, client projects at the same time. Keeping busy though. Landed 2 new ones this week, so I don't know how we're going to fit in 5 client projects going on with only 3 employees in my company. Makes for a fun challenge. Yeah.
You need more employees or less clients?
I have a hard time saying no to some good projects, but at the same time, I really don't want to hire people. I like small, and we've flirted with the idea of hiring people in the past and even hiring freelancers, and it wasn't the direction we wanted to go. It just, it just didn't feel right, and if it doesn't make you happy, why bother doing it?
How about an intern or 2?
Oh, goodness. We tried that once, and we ended up spending more time redoing the work we gave to the interns than actually doing it in the first place. I wish. I figured I live in a town that has 5 colleges here. We should be able to find good CS interns. But
Yeah.
no, wasn't the case.
The thing with any venture is, I was talking to somebody earlier this week who's just taken on a new salesperson for a marketing agency, and the person they've taken on, great, knows their stuff, done, BS in marketing, and BS doesn't stand for what you think it does if you're not in marketing, but has studied marketing, knows their stuff, and yet you still know that there's going to be a big process in training them how to sell, particularly things like SEO, social media marketing, because when you're on the outside of that, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes it seems like everything we do is magic, and therefore it's hard to believe there's anything we can't do. So when a client asks for something,
It is magic.
oh, I'm sure they can do that. Yeah, no problem. No, never mind the fact that's completely impossible under the laws of physics. I'm sure they can do that.
It is magic. We do everything automagically. I mean, it just happens. We wave our wand. 2 days later, everything works. We're kicking off a branding project with a new restaurant, and it's funny. This restaurant, they just have no. I hate to throw them under the bus, but you'd imagine that they're opening a restaurant. They have a vision. They have an idea, a clear thing in their head, but yet the name is the toughest part. It's amazing, even just that. And that's actually our biggest hurdle with any of our client projects right now is coming up with a name for this restaurant. Anyway, if you guys come up with a good diner name, let me know.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we'll keep it in mind.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Mike.
What?
What have you been up to this week?
This
Apart
week
from chasing ferrets.
This week has been fun. It's I've got 4 or 5 clients who are doing really well, which is good after years of working with them. But the wheels seem to be coming off everywhere. Based on the problems you want to have, which is too much business and not enough employees, like David was talking about. So this week seems to be meet with the clients and calm them down week. It's going to be okay week, that this is normal. And the things we've been talking about for 2 years that would happen are actually happening. So there's something in the air out there the last couple of weeks. It's like things just wheels coming off, whether it's in relationships or business or I don't know what it is, but something's going on. But it's kind of fun. That's what they pay us for, so that's good. Also in SEO, a bunch of my clients had this, and I'm only speaking to this because everybody, I do admire everybody on the panel very much, but all my clients just had this huge ranking gain over the last 30 days. I mean, unbelievable, and I have no idea why. And people keep asking me what's going on, and so as an SEO, I have to give them the SEO answers. It's like, well, Venus was in this position, and therefore the algorithm did this, and obviously our hard work has paid off. When in fact, I have no idea what's going on. So
Oh, you don't know. Okay.
No, I don't know. I really don't.
It's sometimes wonderful when Google do devalue one particular signal. The last time I saw something that was really nice like that, they were busting a whole load of link networks. And where most clients in this area had SEO companies, and most of those SEO companies had used link networks, suddenly all of the ones that had cleaner, better quality links jumped up above them. And sometimes it's something really simple like that.
Yeah, it couldn't be that because I just put crappy links on all my
Yeah, well, you got to do competitor and track your competitors to really know that stuff. And a lot of SEOs don't do it. That's number one on mine. I track at least 4 competitors for every client, top competitors. That gives you a better idea than, because usually if something like what you're talking about happens, a whole niche got hit for crap that's went down, you're going to raise and get a whole lot more traffic.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
that's what I attribute it to. Just say, I don't know that if it's something we've done, but it looks like a lot of your competitors have fallen due to excess. Leave it at that.
Of course, we've had.
Never tell them you don't know why it happened. Not a good
They're
idea.
used to that from me. That's always my standard answer. Why is gross profit up? I don't know.
Exactly. It doesn't matter as long as they're used to the fact that, hey, we go with Mike, we do well. That's ultimately what matters to a lot of businesses.
You know, I did start to use semantic in all of the content for the clients. So I think that was it. And mentioning David Amerlin and you guys certainly has to help.
The advocate. All we need is to evoke the right names, right? And sacrifice a goat.
Yeah. You need to make a little altar in the side room somewhere with pictures of Bill on one side, David Amerland on the other, and still Matt Cutts in the middle, and that works. Burn incense there regularly.
I do link to Matt Cutts' wife's blog, which seems to be very helpful, and I encourage people to.
Black magic.
Yeah, it's good black hat stuff. Okay, get me off the screen because I will waste valuable time, as you know.
A lot of people don't realize when you link out to a site, that's sometimes as good as having them link to you. Because Google, actually, for a long time, for as long as I can pretty well remember, Ammon, there was like this legacy algo that looked at the links that you point to. Because if you're listing a whole bunch of good references on one page, that means you've added value that no one else has for those keywords. So that's a good thing. A lot of people don't really realize that, but it's huge. I always make a point of figuring that out.
If you're going to give, you should give attribution if you're going to use language from somebody. If you're entrusting your visitors to other people, link to the ones whom you trust. You know, help build that web of trust. Google likes that, absolutely. I don't know if it's part of an official algorithm, but just the spirit of it is something you would expect them to want to see.
It's legacy. I first read about it on Webmaster World.
I tested this.
One of the few things I got from there that was good.
I started testing this even before there was Webmaster World, back just before he opened that, with a few links to the then top sites around. And what I was looking for back then was to see if anyone was using the hubs and authorities algorithm. And of course, we didn't really have Google at that time. But when Google came along, it reacted really well to those. And by the time that Search Engine World, as it was called at the time, became Webmaster World, Google was coming along nicely. And yeah, it always really, really liked that. I had an article rank incredibly well on a very difficult term, simply on the basis that I linked out to some of the top authority sites. I was talking about business models, and what I did was link to epitomes of those business models. So I was talking about the different revenue streams a business can have, and I said how, you know, even Google has a merchandise store. And I linked across to, which at that time was Google's merchandise store, where you could buy jackets and hats and bags and everything else with the Google logo on. I, of course, had Amazon. I, of course, had some of the pay-per-click and advertising networks, all big top links, and this thing ranked really, really well. And similar experiments on other domains convinced me that, you know, hubs and authorities is out there.
So
my first website was nothing but references that I collected.
Yeah. Now, to quickly translate that for people, hubs and authorities was an old algorithm. I know we've talked about it once or twice, but I don't expect all our audience to tune in every single week. But basically, a hub score is for sites that link to everything. So Google itself is a hub. Yahoo directory was a hub. Places where they may not have the answer, but what they've got is a great list of resources where you can get your answers. Those are hubs. And then authorities are those end sites. Now, these may not link to anybody at all, but they are an absolute expert within their field, and those are authority sites. And what the search engines were kind of looking for was, look, for certain questions early on, the short-term queries, you know, the very short ones, the 1- and 2-word queries, I want to know about insurance. I really need a hub site, not an authority site.
So this
those hub sites too, Ammon, they really place well for the well, I forget what I was going to say. Sorry, Bill.
They
This
do
app
very local.
was developed in a garage in Mountain View, a couple blocks away from Google, around the same time, by a professor named John Kleinberg.
Yeah, who is a frequent mention of ours, because you know, the guy was an absolute genius in this stuff. Worked for Cornell, but his work with IBM on the Clever project was pivotal. It was something that Google itself looked at extensively, and PageRank was kind of a simplification of their work that John Kleinberg had done in hubs and authorities. His work took days to run, and it just was not scalable. You couldn't use this in a real-time search engine at that time, they thought. Now, Teoma claimed that it had pretty much taken his algorithm and made it work in real time. Maybe that's so. Google went with a simplified version, which was PageRank. Now, PageRank was topic insensitive, and you know, that topic sensitivity, the fact that to look for an authority, you've got to know what they're an authority in. So you first got to look at what somebody wants to know, and then calculate, right, who knows everybody in this space, and who knows everything in this space, and plan those links out from there. Anyway, sorry,
And the
hubs,
question
authorities.
is author rank going to come back, and are we going to get a reputation score that knows about topics?
Well, theoretically, that has to happen at some point. But what form it'll take, really, remains to be seen. Because I mean, a lot of the stuff which we've said right now, up to now, make a lot of sense in terms of the practicalities of how things should work. They work exactly the same offline. They do come to the same point at some point online. Now we get into semantic web where everything is relationship based, and you have a relational analysis of those connections. So logically, we should get to that stage. The big question is, how do you get to it without making it so obvious that it can easily be gamed, because then it will skew search. And I think that's the real trick in its execution.
It's certainly one of those big things left. Yeah, we know that Teoma did manage to do a certain amount of looking at the authority, the hubs and authorities of linkage, topic specific at the time of search, presumably. Google's looked at ways of cheating on this. I don't know if you remember Hilltop,
Yep.
where it kind of had bucket categories and would then match to those. What it was doing for a while was looking at the ODP, the Open Directory project. So it was looking at a directory structure and calculating links according to what was in those directories and what linked to or from things that were in those directories. So it created a
and they're using that as they were using that to work out the themes and the content. You're right, but directories were human curated. That was the whole. I mean, they were trusted because of that, but also
they weren't necessarily scalable.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, if you remember, there was every time you approached one of those, because they relied on volunteers, some categories were actually very active because people were very active in them, and some took months to update, and you had to sort of apply again, and you didn't know if you're going to be accepted. It was nightmare.
Yeah.
And some you just had to know who to pay.
yeah, there was that. That's the problem with people, isn't it? They can't be trusted.
Yep, ODB,
Oh,
not to name any names.
I remember the big fights with the ODP, and do you remember Peter Devanzo's rubber stamped his directory? Yeah, all you got to do is pay. And the ODP didn't want to list it. And he said, well, hang on, you're supposed to be the ones that are ethical. How can you go around discriminating? Yeah, big old fight, but fun times. Kristin, you haven't said hello, and you haven't told us what you've been doing this week.
Yeah, causing trouble. I'm a loose cannon on the internet. Trying to stir up campaigns for goodness and all that good stuff. Yeah, it's fun. It's really good fun. Dabbling here and just experimenting. And I love being the resident noob because then I get to ask all the fun questions, or at least they're fun for me anyways. I don't know if you guys have fun answering them. But my question that I wanted to ask you guys is, okay, so when you all link to other things like that you're talking about, there's what I think that Terry is talking about with the co-occurrences. You actually have something to do with each other. When I link to Sasha Strauss, like, is that helping him or hurting him?
It's kind of like this. If you are a search engine and you look for qualities of a good page, then sometimes qualities of a good page on a particular topic include that it references the industry body on that topic, that it's got the licensing body. If it doesn't, that may indicate that it isn't a licensed part, or it's not very well informed. So having links, having external citations, shows you are connected, and having quality ones, the ones that lots of people also have, shows that you are aware of the market, or at least you match the pattern of other good ranked sites. So that's part of it.
Okay.
Also, if people tend to often link to you and something else, that co-citation has an effect as well. So Bing often gets listed at the same time as Google, because if you're talking about search engines, there's a lot of places going to mention Bing as well as Google. So technically, even if I search for where can I Google stuff, Bing has a chance of showing up in the results simply because of the number of co-citations for the thing.
Cool. Thank you.
I have a question. Who made up semantic search? It is the greatest marketing ploy I've ever heard in my life. What is semantic? I mean, that's like language, right? What?
Yeah. So a guy named Tim Berners-Lee?
Yes, we can blame everything on him, including the web.
Yeah.
Although technically he was talking about the semantic web rather than semantic
2000,
search.
yeah, he was talking about 2002. He mentioned the first time ever. And the way he visualized it did not even take search into account, because it was human generated through structured data. And then it became indexable and transferable through any kind of means. He didn't really sort of foresee how the role search would play. There are flaws in anything which allows people to play such a pivotal part. Some of it is simply human error, where you get errors sort of stacking up incrementally over time, and that sort of affects the quality. And the other thing is gaming behavior, which we know it's human economic behavior looking for shortcuts, which tends to take any shortcuts given to them. So, yeah.
But who took that and made it such a great marketing idea? I mean, who
that was
was
David Emerland.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think we can blame Google here, right? Because I was just following what they were doing.
another term to use with clients to confuse them? It's like, oh, it's not semantic.
Right, yeah, you're right. Though. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talk about semantic search, and even now, it's like 3 years on, you get some really blank looks, even by people who are active in the web and sort of know a little bit about trends. And I think the whole idea, at the moment you put a label which is so dense in some way that unless you're really into it, they don't get it, you create an obstacle which is in itself a problem. I totally get that. But it is what it is. I mean, these days we just talk about search and explain the relational connections and everything else, rather than semantic search. But it's just a label, and it was handy to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Getting back to what Kristen was saying, though, in terms of co-occurrence, I mean, that is a big part of semantic search, in that you're associating two things in their conjunction to each other. And I mean, we've seen what's happened in the past with co-occurrence and how people were gaming Google to give faulty answers, for example. Or I think there was a good play on George Bush and what George Bush is by using co-occurrence to get that to be the top search engine result for when you Google, George Bush and where are MDs found. They're found in the White House, for example. And that's all part of semantic search as well as just search in general. But
that's an abuse of links.
It is, and
usable failure George Bush stuff.
It's a Google bomb.
It was using anchor text to point to a page to try to influence what that page meant.
Which is in itself semantic, because what Google was saying is people often describe, say this near this link or with this link, therefore this is a good result for those words, and that is semantics in a way. I would also say that the first place we saw it, long before Google, was in looking at root and stem words. So, if I search for restaurants, also including restaurant, because that was the first time we've moved away from literally somebody's put these characters in, let's find pages that have these characters in this order and no others in the same word, to stemming and expanding. So it knew that restaurant and restaurants were the same basic concept, and we saw that long before we were talking about semantic search, but it's the start of it, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that was a Google bomb, which is essentially a logic bomb in its way. Google has fixed that, so it can't happen quite the same way. But I mean, really, with semantic search, it gives us an extra, ever-refining layer of abstraction, and that's the whole idea of having search, which is intelligent. It's intelligent in the sense that it constantly makes sense of the data, the metadata, the layer beneath it. So create a meta layer of data, of fresh data, which then creates an additional layer as things get refined, and that constantly evolves. So in theory, we should never get to the same situation where brute force would allow something to happen. That's in theory, though, right?
Right. With semantic search, you've an extra layer of data on the web, in addition to the data that you find through links and hypertext.
I think it's important to add that it's actually machine-readable data, which is very important part of it. That's how I got kind of turned on to it. We had a person who was pretty talented and worked for a few search engines, and when I was kind of poo-pooing schema, she explained to me machine-readable data, and a big light come on over my head once I got past that part of it and realized the way it kind of opened the web up to where words weren't as important, that these things were all being now put under, like you said, like a metadata. And the first real indicator I got was a guy from Best Buy who they added all structured data to their website. He said it didn't really do anything for Google, but they were getting indexed by price comparison engines and stuff like that just ate it up. He said it really increased the way that they got indexed by places other than Google.
Yeah, I
agree. An analogy that might be useful to think about is the difference between an HTML sitemap and an XML sitemap.
Yes.
An XML sitemap, the search engine comes along, grabs one text file, and boom, it knows all the URLs from your website.
Yep.
It doesn't have to crawl them. It doesn't have to follow all the links in that HTML sitemap.
Yep, I agree. Guys, I have to tear myself away with huge regret. I'll try and come back.
Yeah.
You know, because it got to a really interesting part. You know, I really must come back to one of these. You know, it's always clashes a lot of things, and every time I join, it's so much fun. So hopefully, the hangout I'm going to will be short, and I'll dive back in. Otherwise, I'm going to be here next Thursday.
Okay. Well, if you want, we can tell our audience what hangout you're going to, and they can all go and boo and make it end quicker.
It's the Nodex one.
Oh, I can't do that to you.
All right. Take care.
See you soon.
Bye bye.
The only thing I wanted to add, Ammon, is basically, or even to Terry's comment about metadata, would be like to photos. You know, the metadata that is collected on photos and allows for GPS mapping. You know, same thing with video. When you have GPS turned on for video, when you're actually doing that, that's collected into you know, the knowledge graph, I believe, because it's seen in maps, as well as other things with Google. You know, you see it happening. I'm just curious what others have seen with metadata with photo and video. That'd be cool to experience.
That's something that Google started doing with Google Maps, where they're if you upload images, publicly share images that are geocoded with the location data, let's say I go to my local farm or someone's searching for it, it'll automatically pull public images of that location that were shared. I don't know if you've ever read William Gibson's book, what was the most recent one? Spy Country, where they talked about basically like if you have images or things that can be geocoded, and it's all based on search. You know, I think that it comes up. Images are especially interesting in that way, especially with facial recognition and image recognition, where, you know, if you go into the new Google Photos and you pull up the app and it's automatically indexed all your photos, it says like this is an eggplant, this is this, and it's already categorized all your images based on the subject matter that it's found in the images because it knows what's there, in addition to the information that you supplied in the image. So it allows that search to be that more powerful, both from you as a user standpoint, but in terms of Google's image search, location search, and all that other related data. It's just fascinating stuff.
Totally cool. You know, and that's something I've been testing with photos versus taking it from a GPS camera, like a high quality, you know, not a GPS, but basically just a high resolution camera, versus just taking it off my smartphone, right? And then uploading it to Google Maps and seeing the difference between the results of how effective that was versus the other picture of the same thing. You know, the front property, you know, with the grass, the sign in the front, the building in the background, all that stuff. Taking two different things where you've got one that's just a regular picture and then one just straight from a smartphone, and then noticing the smartphone version actually picked up faster in the local search than the others did.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my favorite things, and sorry to butt in again, but one of my favorite things that is looking at how Google uses all the stuff that we supply or do for free and how they use it to data mine. So, for example, when Google had the 311 service where you would call up to get a phone number for a local business, and all they were doing by giving the service away for free was doing audio recognition to learn how people were saying things, to parse certain things. And they were just building up this huge data repository to data mine. And then it's the same thing, you know, by you indexing things for them, you're telling them, and if David Amerlin was here, he would chime in with his whole semantic web thing, but you know, you're teaching this engine how to process all this stuff. The more data you give, the more you're just giving a free education to their machine. You know, it's so fascinating how that can be put to use.
And Google Talk was saying they had one of the top guys in voice recognition who was looking at all that data, and it was for their recognition, their voice recognition software, so they can understand what people are saying for the voice search. So that's what Google Talk was about. That's why I kind of laugh when people say they're going to shut down Google+. Why would they? They're getting a ton of data that they use in Knowledge Vault, in figuring out relationships between entities. Only a fool thinks they're going to close it down entirely. They don't understand what Google Plus is really about. The other thing is, William, I'm not sure if it was for the dojo, or for SEO pros, but I did an interview with Edward DeBoer. He's a partner with Google for taking the pictures inside of stores, and most definitely they're using the metadata in those pictures.
Yeah,
and
the virtual, you're talking about the 3D virtual tours?
Yeah, the 3D virtual tours, for sure.
I mean, they're fantastic because they take up so much really good real estate when you're looking at, like, if you look at a company, do a brand search, for example, boom, right there, it's the virtual tour. You can jump in, you can look around everywhere, you can walk around the entire store and zoom in. High resolution.
It's also that people pay $1,000 for that, so I'm sure that is one of the reasons it shows up in the search.
Well, no, I think it's the hardest part is the cameras. You know, the cameras and the technology that the actual company that's doing it is they have to have that investment, and at the same time it's a long process from when we got ours first done to when it was completed, and then and since then it's just been, you know, our customer experience. They love it. It's just like, well, we can, you know, go through, check it out, and before we even get to your store. So, but that happens to be a violin shop, so basically that allows for them to just kind of cruise through the shop, you know. A little kind of different.
That's always with video and pictures. A lot of it is the context that they're in, that how valuable they are.
Yeah, if it's a grocery store, probably not so important. But, you know, at the same time, you know, but you can take that from even like you know, a tourist park. You know, take the San Diego Zoo. You know, you get 3D tours of the San Diego Wild Animal Park or the zoo, and now you've got opportunity for them to see it and then really engage in it, and then go up at the park.
I think one of the things that intrigues me about that is which businesses it's really good for. And at the moment, that indoor mapping, if you run a conference center, if you run a hotel, if you run a business center that's letting its offices out, honestly, get that done, because the investment is going to be so worthwhile, because that's a place where knowing about the indoor space is important to the customers, and I'm absolutely convinced that data is going to make it into usable forms as soon as there's enough of it. And I think right now that investment is very well spent. In the future, when everyone knows exactly what it is delivering to business, the price is going to go up, because those photographers are going to be very, very, and they're going to be charging 3 to 5 times as much. So honestly, restaurants, bars, venues of all sorts, get that done now, because I really think it's so good. Now we've got Fabrizio joining us again, but we've also got Wakar. Is that correctly pronounced? I don't know if you can.
I swear I did not mute him. I did not mute him this time.
Yeah. This is Wakar from Pakistan.
Good to have you join us. So, are you an SEO over in Pakistan?
Yeah, everything is good here. This is just the first time, and when I just follow you on the GPS, and you know, I don't know where to start and what to ask you, but I'm just want to tell you that I'm just a SEO expert in a company here. Who's doing business related to online marketing and the consulting project, which have a large amount of projects from US-based companies. So I'm just really, you can say that just a minute, please. Just a minute, I think this is a wire problem here.
Okay, yeah. No problem. Fabrizio, how are you this week? How's your week been?
Quite romantic so far. Like, we see how it was. It didn't start well, but you were like thinking. One point on the, I mean, so far I've been listening because it's quite intriguing just to listen. One of the points, I totally agree on the point of having structured data for machines, because that's where Google Glasses, the car, and the Google buying Nest with those homeware devices, you need to connect these data on the web with those machines to make it digestible for machines. One point is that, how do you think that they're going to fight not spam, but the fact that structured data is not cannot be as correct? I'm not saying that people are going to spam structured data, but at the same time, there's kind of validation process where you know they obviously they have. I remember asking a similar question back in time, and yes, Google has got something to validate the data, but still, from what I'm seeing so far with the client I'm working on and so on, and most of the time they don't pick up what is right yet, or you see that improving in the sense that the data that is out there will be more reliable, or the way they check it will be more consistent. I don't know.
That's always been a worry for me, is that, you know, we had metadata, we had the ability for webmasters to tell search engines what their pages were about, and it's like, not just that it was abused, it's that people were genuinely very bad at it. They've only got their own experience. They don't have a wider experience. Not everyone can be trained to even know half of the sites in their own field. So describing themselves fairly within that, you know, everyone thinks that their own content is great. Everyone, well, all right, apart from Mike, you know, but he is a very honest man. So that's that.
He really isn't. Have you ever met someone so self-deprecating? Like, holy heck, Mike.
What do you mean self-deprecating? He is that bad.
Yeah. Honestly, yes. But no, I am what I am. At least I know it.
Oh.
David.
So, David is absolutely right. We love that wallpaper behind you. That's the best collection of fake books we've ever seen.
The first couple of times, I was so fooled. I was like, wow, he's just like I am. Lots of books. I thought you were just like cool
as
guy.
An award thing. I'm going to put a bunch of fake awards back there. We'll sell them.
I'm sure, you know, there are people already doing sort of background screens for Hangouts. I'm sure they'll start doing, you know, like, what room would you like?
This is just a room in the office. It's nothing special. They just put the paper like this, so I guess that's the rest of the office.
Ah, cool.
Oh, wow, very cool.
Man, you just ruined the illusion. It was so beautiful. You just did that.
Obviously not a marketer, that's for sure.
It's not a place to hide, you know. Well, right now there's no one left, but it's just before it used to be a nice place to hide. That's why I came in.
Fabrizio, are you in a library?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I'm waiting for is for David's kids to get just that bit older, and they'll be renting out the fridge space next to him. You see, what their kids will have the little magnet stickers up there, and you know there'll be Johnny loves Joni, and they'll have charged one of their friends to put that up. You know, about 5 pence.
Can I show you structured markup in my family? Hold on a second. This is structured markup.
Oh my goodness! What a wonderful like alternative to the lemonade stand, right?
Yes. No. Yep. There will be everything over there. But yes, like I said, too hot to be in the office today.
Yeah.
Oh well.
At least you haven't actually opened the fridge door to let the cold air out.
That's next.
When I saw your books last week and I realized that they weren't real, I was actually like thinking about Clue, And I was thinking about like how awesome that would be to have like all these different rooms, like who done it in this room or whatever. I don't know. It's just where my
Oh man, imagine if a door opens up behind him, like a secret panel.
You push something.
It would do, but you have to pull one of the books out for that, and you can't pull one of the books out.
I bet we're all looking at something, and there is a book there that does that. We just have to figure out which one. If we guess, do we get a prize?
Well, yeah, I think many times people try to get one, just screaming at course. These are rooms that have course in general.
That would be a pretty clever kind of wall safe, wouldn't it? Where you've got this wallpaper of books, and one of them is real with the safe inside it.
This is where we get silly, folks.
Yes.
It's kind of hell.
The paper is quite scratched, so there's not much. You realize you're not through it, not specialization.
So
It's been a fun chat, guys, but I've got to really run.
take care, William.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Have fun, William.
So we kind of mentioned earlier test sites. How much has anyone been testing? Has anyone been split testing markup versus non-markup to see how much difference it makes? Has anyone done that, or has anyone read of somebody doing that yet?
God, that's a great question. You know, I haven't tested it, and again, I'm pretty local, right? So it's like in my little world, but we really kind of have a split between those two. I hate to admit it, but our newer clients, we've used markup, and the older ones we've left alone without. And in my experience, it does seem to help. I mean, I'm going to go look at that, and maybe I can get back to you guys. But you know, that would be pretty hard to. But I'll change some of the older clients into the markup and see if, and do nothing else except mention Semantic and David Amerlin.
Yeah.
And see what type of change happens. That's a great question. There's got to be some research. Bill, have you seen it?
No. And the thing is, you don't have two equal sites to compare, where you can have one with markup and one without. They have different contexts, different links pointing to them, different other things, other features that doesn't make it something that's easily controllable as an experiment.
That's exactly why, you know, for me, it's always been. I operate what I consider the bare minimum of test sites, which is at any one time there will be 30 domains that I've got that I test on, and the important part is I know the history of these. I've owned these all the way through, so that I know what I'm doing. There's always a couple of them that they don't mirror each other, but they do within tolerances. I.e., they may be different topics, but they're in the same kind of bucket. How do I explain that? Well, a few may be hobby sites, and okay, one might be about computer games, and another one's about fishing, and another one's about bicycles, but they're still within that general framework. I've got an idea of where they're listed and how many links they've got, and I can adjust for that. The point is to say, okay, these are in this. These ones over here are more in a kind of professional one because these have got affiliate links on them, because I wanted to see at certain times what happens to sites with monetized links when I try this or try that, because you need to test lots of different things. And so for me, there are 30 sites, and it's the bucket approach. Go on, Terry.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in the last 10 years. When there's 500 parts to the algorithm, nothing you're going to do is going to change it enough, unless it's a change to a title, right? These other things move it so little that I don't think it's really worth testing. Sure, you can. It's good to have, like you do, hobby sites where you try things before you try them on a client site. Totally get that, but doing like in the old days where we did experiments. Dave and I have said for like almost from the whole time I was on the dojo that most tests are not at a scale large enough that includes the Maz's weathercast or whatever that thing is. Same deal, crap data in, crap data out. That's something that never changes. So it's very hard. All you can really do is make one change at a time to a page and see what it does, and then do it a couple more times. But changing multiple things, even when there were very few algorithms, it's very tough to isolate one of these to say, yeah, this did this or that or the other. And it's been like that for a long time. That's why people who say they tested stuff, it may make you feel good, but it's not what I would call a test that you bet the farm on.
I wouldn't say that you can test, it's not designed to test every single part of the algorithm. Let's face it, we don't even know every part of the algorithm. But what I can, and what it does for me, is a new update comes in, and people say, oh, there's a new update, and that's as much as they've got. And then they're going, my site went up, and my site went down. And great, now in a month's time, maybe people will start to get at why. And even then, they're looking for the common features of each. Whereas, because I know the history of each domain, and I know this domain is particularly strong in authority. And those three sites there, it's authority that's at play. And they're in a thing. These ones, it's actual links and link text more than authority. These ones, it's what the links say, and those ones, it's where the links are from. And these ones, it's because people still regularly cite them. It's the influx of links. Now, which of those go up or down, and by how much, gives me a very strong idea of which part of the link algorithm changed, whether it's the authority, whether it's the continual influx, or whether it's the link text. And it's surprising how few sites you can have, if you do them properly, that will give you a very good idea, not of what changed or by how much, but at which part of the algorithm to narrow you're looking at.
Yeah, actually, Ammon, when I told you I do all the competitor stuff, that's how I use that as well. It's almost like doing a test, but I've looked at these competitors and know them so well. I know how they got to place and I can tell by the shifts in the SERP what's been going on as well, which is kind of like a secondary test as well, right? That kind of verifies anything else I've been doing.
Yeah, it's got to be like one of the best ways, or at least what I found so far, anyways. Like being a new person in this, is looking at competitors and seeing what they're doing. It's such a visible thing that it's really helpful when you're first starting out and trying to learn from all these things.
I can tell you it's been like that for 20 years, right, Ammon?
It has seemed, though, that it's in the last few years specifically that it's been easier, not necessarily easier, but faster to get a site to start showing up in the rankings some way than it was years ago without having to do a lot of link building. Like just in the last 2 or 3 years, be able to get a small website to start showing up at all. I mean, it used to be that you had to go out, you had to build links, you had to actively, drop links back to a site to get it to show up somewhere in like the top 20 or 30 results for a Google search. But it seems like you can now do it, or at least get your site to start showing and generating some traffic without having to go that approach, without going the link building approach at all. That it just happens better, especially if you structure sites. And I know this isn't necessarily that semantic markup is the reason for it, but it has seemed like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining that connection.
I'm going to hand this to Terry in a second, but I do think that our standards dropped. At one time, if they didn't rank for their keywords, they didn't care what they ranked for. You would always rank for your own name within a week or two. You would, usually rank for a very small shop on such and such a street, you were going to turn up. It's just that in the past we didn't care. Whereas as the penalties have got bigger and we've understood more about competition, I think people realise, look, yeah, you're not going to be #1 for travel because you've got a bed and breakfast.
Yeah,
So
David, to what you were saying, I would say if you put schema on a website for location, and you're going to do well in the local SERPs because a lot of people aren't adding that to their website. And the other thing is, in the past, there was no social web, so you had to build. The only way for discovery from Google was by incoming links. Now they're also looking at the social aspects. So for those beginners, it's a little bit easier to get ranked by just using social and schema. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Or even not even social, but simply verifying your Google My Business page. And all the semantic that does, that connection right there, and suddenly you start showing up for restaurant in New York City, and it doesn't even matter if it's New York City, like what side the market is, but because of that connection, suddenly there's a whole lot more there, and the discovery is that much greater without you actually going out and doing anything beyond that. It just seems like that's
a different type of algorithm completed. It has nothing to do with PageRank. It's pure semantic web. It's number of citations, mentions of your business, along with geographic location information. And the semantic markup helps reinforce that.
I think also personal search, personalized search has become bigger. We used to get less space in the SERPs for that because there just wasn't enough to fill in that kind of stuff anyway. I mean, I'd say in an average SERP now, of the traditional 10 results, about 3 are going to be personal in some way. They'll either be localized or they will be personalized in some way, which has a lot more chance of featuring your business, either through local or through personalization. And I think that, again, plays into it.
Yeah, David, I'd say also when you verify your Google Plus account, that is a big part of Google's local algorithm, is the trust that they put in that you are actually that business at that location. That's huge for them because remember, when you verify your business, they've actually phoned and someone's picked up the phone and verified the listing. So I just put that together. Thank you. I put that together just now.
Like you said, I mean, and when Bill was saying, it's almost for the local. A lot of it is becoming that semantic search aspect of it is that much greater now than the PageRank aspect of it. That like we were talking about, it's all part of that entity that gives it that trust value, that trust factor, and boosts you without you doing the traditional SEO strategies that you had to for those types of things.
Yep. I think it's a lot more noticeable on newer sites too, because when I add schema to literally thousands of pages on a website, didn't do much because the address was already there and they already had a Google Plus verified page. So it makes a little more sense.
The one thing we've looked at in our little universe is, basically the Moz PA as it relates to local rankings and maps. And at least for us in Denver, we see a strong correlation. Again, it's not causation, but strong correlation. So I wouldn't necessarily just jump on the PageRank. PageRank doesn't exist anyway. Who knows what that is? But from an authority standpoint, the PA on Moz and their Moz trust factor, those two have a tendency to be very strongly correlated with your actual maps ranking. So that's something we keep an eye on. But to David's point, real quick, one of the big differences today is I think new sites are built better, and so the search engines obviously can read them better, and that's a big change in the last 2 or 3 years. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead. Be seated.
What kind of voice is that?
So PA from Moz's Page Authority is their version of PageRank, right?
I think so.
It's a
you know, who knows? It's as
And the
close.
Moz Trust is
what they
their
thought.
version of Yahoo's Trust Rank, which who knows if Yahoo is even using that anymore. We don't know that.
No, the Moz Trust, as I understand it, is the relationship, and I may be using the wrong name here, but the relationship between a site and and trusted sites, the levels between. So I may be using the wrong word there. So
No,
it's like,
you used the right word. That's the way that they intended to be used, but doesn't mean it's actually being used.
no, I don't know if it's used or not, but those are the causations or correlations that in Denver we see between highly local, sites that are ranked locally. Two things you can pull out of there is the PA and the Moz trust factor, and they will be higher generally than the sites that are not.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
all
are
I'm
you talking about maps rankings, or are you talking about organic rankings?
Maps.
Maps rankings.
Yeah,
But the problem is that's supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be based on links in any way.
Oh, I know, I know, but I actually I published a couple of those small research things a couple years ago. I'll dig them up for you, but and again, this is very small. This isn't worth talking about nationally at all. But we'll do that every quarter or so. Just take a look at the competitors, blah blah blah. We'll look at the maps or whatever shows up on the first page, and for us anyway, PA and Moz Trust consistently are higher on those in the maps listings. And I know I'm talking to geniuses here, so I could be wrong.
We were just saying, actually, all of the tools now have their own version of trying to work out domain authority, trust, whatever we call it. Basically, a similar thing to what Google's using, because it was such a big part of the way Google was looking at links that you kind of had to have something that approximated it to see what was going on. Obviously, Terry and I are both big fans of Majestic. Right,
That's
so
because
I
they
love
speak your
Dixon's
language.
work. Dixon has a long history in this business, and he knows what he's doing, and that engine was built right.
The topic rank that he does, or where he shows all the topics that are coming into a page, that should be at the top of every SEO's list these days, in my opinion. Google's very much topic sensitive.
And what I've really liked recently with Majestic is, have you seen how that works on social networks, particularly Twitter, for finding influencers? Because you can seriously find the kind of trust in certain people's feeds. You can rank people on Twitter by the authority, who links to them, how many followers have they got, and so on and so forth.
Didn't they just add to the Majestic app to look at Twitter, and just Twitter, or some other social accounts too, Ammon?
I think it's got some other... Majestic would do it before. When we had Dixon come and join us on the Isuzu chat, do you remember, Bill? We looked at it then, and it was absolutely fascinating and absolutely spot on how it could differentiate people that seem to have more followers. You could find... Yeah, they've got more followers, but if you look at the interaction, if you look at who those followers are, not so much authority there. This one with literally a quarter as many followers has twice the authority, and it could do that kind of thing way back then. Now they've got a thing that just brings the interface up, so it's less a case of having to know how to read the numbers, and it's made clearer for you, which I've really liked.
That's got to be one of my top 5 Isuzu chats for being able to wrap my head around SEO. I highly recommend that. If no one else does, I'll go and find it and I'll put the link in. But that is a great chat for getting your head around stuff. Yeah.
We teased him on the day because he back then, Terry and I had kind of, we're not rival SEO shows, but we both had SEO shows, and he did them back to back. He did an hour with Terry.
I remember that. He was late for our show because he was doing yours.
No, he was on ours after yours.
Oh, what? Okay, I
That
just
is
knew
one way.
he had to leave early or came late.
And he
But
was,
he's an excellent interview. Every time we've had him on, excellent. And as soon as they release new tools, me and Dave would contact him. He always comes on the show.
yeah, and I've known Dixon, luckily, you know, years and years in the UK SEO scene. We used to go to all of the same conferences and seminars and so forth. He'd go to more of them, but we met up a lot of times, obviously, way back when the very first PubCon started, the very first one, before it was officially endorsed. Dixon was there, I was there, and I got on great with the guy. He knows his stuff, and when he produced this tool, I knew it was one to really take note of. Not that the Moz tools are not good, they are, but Majestic is just, to me, it's a different level altogether. It's a slightly more serious tool, and that probably means it's not for everybody. But if you really want to know what you're doing, I would definitely say get a try. Majestic, try it.
To me, dividing it into fresh data and historic data, that's huge too. The other program that I like is, as far as the owners, Dan Sharp from Screaming Frog. Awesome guy. I can contact him and ask him any question. Tells me how to do it. And now you can actually pull, you can actually index stuff on sites and tell it to pull certain things. So it's becoming almost like a scrape box.
Yeah.
Only it actually respects robots, text, and other things if you want it to. Which is, I like that it gives you gives you a choice.
It's good to verify structured data because now you can scrape that data, that HTML out of the page, so you can verify that the structured data is correct and consistent, or just even hreflang tags, everything. I've been building like some regular expression to add that to do those instructions, and they really save time, because in the past what they have was the custom filter that was checking only what section was checking something on the page, but it was not exporting the data. So
I have to take us offline. We've gone way past time, but we've been having a great time. As ever, we'll carry on in the green room. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.